Here is the full Passover story. God promised Abraham that his children will descend into Egypt and they will rise out of there as a wealthy nation. Many years later, there was a famine in the land of Israel, and the Jewish people had to descend into Egypt to find food. Once they got there, they saw that the second in command to all of Egypt was none other than their brother Joseph, whom they sold into slavery many years before. Joseph's brothers and his whole family descended down into Egypt to join him, and they became a powerful nation within the borders of Egypt, living a prosperous life. That Pharaoh died along with the entire generation. And it says that a new Pharaoh arose, one that didn't remember the Jewish people or Joseph. And he was intimidated by the Jewish people and he's enslaved them. And the slavery became so difficult with back-breaking labor that the Jewish people cried out to God. And it says that God heard their cries. And he sent a savior by the name of Moses, who he tasked to take the Jewish people out of the land of Egypt. When Moses shows up in front of Pharaoh and he utters those iconic words,
"Let my people go,"
of course, Pharaoh declined and laughed in his face. God brought successive plagues through Moses, starting with blood, then frogs, lice, wild beasts, plagues of their cattle, boils, hail, locust, darkness. And all the while, Pharaoh's heart was hard until God told the Jewish people to take lambs into their houses and slaughter them and put the blood on the doorpost of their doors, so that when God passed through the land of Egypt and slayed the firstborn, he would spare the houses of the Hebrews. That night there was a cry in Egypt like there had never been. Pharaoh himself came to the Jewish people and said, "Get out!" The Jewish people had to leave in a hurry. They didn't even have a chance to let their dough rise, which is where matzah comes from. They left Egypt and Pharaoh changed his mind and started to chase after them until they arrived at the Sea of Reeds. And they had no choice. They only could turn back or to go forward, and they chose to go forward. They marched into the sea, and miraculously the sea split and they walked through on dry land, and the Egyptian army followed them in. As the last Hebrew left, the ocean closed and destroyed Pharaoh's army. And the Jewish people found themselves on the other side of the Nile, a free nation marching triumphantly on their way to the land of Israel to fulfill God's promise to Abraham.